crawlspace in the basement. Growing up, I was always interested in the paranormal. I loved reading ghost stories or watching movies on TV, but in reality I knew I would be terrified if I ever experienced anything myself. I grew up in a small town in Illinois. I had moved there when my mom and my stepfather got married, and I have lived there ever since. When they got married, we moved into the house that my stepdad had purchased a few years back. It was an older home that was built in the earlier 1940s. The interior of the home was outdated, and my mom and stepdad definitely knew it was time to do some renovations. They started updating the house in small portions. The area of the house was the basement. I am sure you can guess that this is when things started to occur. The basement was split up into two parts. The first part was the main area, and the second part was the laundry room. My parents decided that they were going to make the main part of the basement my playroom, because I had too many toys that needed their own space. In the laundry room, there was a crawl space. It had a little wooden door that covered the opening. Now the crawl space was not low to the ground. It was up higher on the wall with a few steps you had to walk up to get into it. So the door was at eye level. For some reason, my mom always kept that door open. There were no lights in the crawl space either, so it was rather creepy. A couple weeks after they had finished the basement, we were all eating dinner in kitchen. Now the basement door is into the kitchen, and it is always open. We were having a conversation about school, like we always do, when all of a sudden we heard one of my toys go off. It was a little grill that made noise whenever you walked by or touched it. We thought it was pretty odd, but brushed it off. The next night, it did the exact same thing. Except this time it kept going off. When my stepdad finally stood up to go downstairs and turn it off, the doorbell on my Barbie dollhouse started to go off. He eventually went down there and took the batteries out of both. After that I only went down there and played if I had friends over. Another occurrence in the basement happened in the laundry room. My mom had asked me to go grab the laundry out of the dryer. When I did, I was just about finished when all of a sudden the door on the crawl space started to slowly close. Now remember, it was always open, so I could see right into it. I don't think I've ever run that fast up the stairs before. Needless to say, I spent as much time as possible in that basement. The next area of the home that my parents renovated was the kitchen. It was a Saturday night, and my parents were in the process of renovating the kitchen. They had pretty much just started. They decided to let me stay home, while they went to the hardware store to pick up some things for the renovation. So I decided to watch some TV in the living room while they were gone. My living room is right next to the kitchen, so it was very easy to see the kitchen from where I was sitting. About 20 minutes after they left, I heard two of the cabinets in the kitchen slam shut. I knew it was the cabinets because they made a very distinct noise if they were closed too hard. They were old, heavy-wood cabinets, and my mom used to yell at me for slamming them all the time. My two dogs immediately ran into the kitchen and started barking. One of them was staring at the cabinet, while the other started barking toward the bottom of the basement stairs. I was so freaked out I brought the dogs in my bedroom with me and locked the door. The next room to be redone was mine. My parents were just repainting the walls, adding new carpet, and putting shelves in the closet. Now by the time they had started redoing my room, my little brother was about 5 years old. My parents decided that they wanted to go out for the night, a couple days after they finished my room, so they asked me to babysit. I invited a friend over to help me babysit and see my new room. We had brought some toys in the room for my brother to play with, while we sat on the bed and talked. About an hour after my parents left, my brother stopped dead in his tracks and lifted up the bed skirt on my bed. He was sitting at the end of my bed on the floor playing with his toys at the time. Once he lifted up the bed skirt, he immediately started screaming. He jumped up and asked him what was wrong. He started to cry and said that the bad man was underneath my bed. We checked and there was no one there. He pretty much refused to come back into my room for the rest of the night, and my friend and I were pretty relieved to get out of there ourselves. Flash forward a couple of years, and now I am a sophomore in high school. My parents had just finished putting a huge addition onto the back of the house to add a third bedroom. My brother's bedroom used to be the office area, which was pretty small, so they knew it was time to add on to the house. They didn't want to move because the housing market was awful at the time. My parents' old room became my new bedroom, and my brother got my old room. The addition is where my parents' new master suite was. Once again, my parents repainted their old room and replaced the carpet so that it was newer for me. They also repainted my father's room as well. A couple months after moving into my new room, I was sleeping when all of a sudden my bulletin board hit me in the back of the head. Now my bulletin board was pretty much super glued to the wall. There was no way it was coming off because we had put about 10 heavy-duty glue strips on the back. The board itself was right above my tall dresser. My bed was right next to that dresser. As soon as it hit me, I knew what it was. I was so scared that I refused to move. I figured I would deal with it the next morning. When I finally woke up, I was in total shock. My pictures on the board were scattered all around my bed, and the plaster from the wall was ripped completely off where the glue strips had been. I also realized that if the board were to fall, it should have knocked all the perfume and picture frames off my dresser. Except they were all right where they had been and nothing was moved. There was no way it could have fallen that far off the wall and hit me in the head. I lost some sleep for a few days after that. One of the last encounters was when I was a senior in high school. Every morning my parents had left for work around 6:30 a.m. It was very rare that they were late or stayed home from work. I usually woke up at 7:30 for school. One morning, I woke up a couple minutes before my alarm because I heard my mom blow drying her hair. I thought that was odd because I knew she should have left for work already. I got up and started walking towards the bathroom, which was the last area of the house to be renovated. I could hear the blow dryer on clear as day. As soon as I got into the bathroom, it stopped and my mother was nowhere to be found. The blow dryer was still plugged in, which was odd because she always made sure everything was unplugged and put away before she was done. I checked the garage and both parents were gone. It scared me so bad, I grabbed my stuff and went to my neighbor's to get ready. After I went away to college, I brought up some of my experiences to my mom. She said she was surprised it took me this long to bring it up because she had been experiencing some things as well. She told me that she used to see a little boy standing in the doorway of her room, way before my brother was born. She also said that she saw what looked like a tall man standing in my bedroom, which really freaked me out because my brother said he saw the bad man under my bed. We moved out of that house about 6 months ago because my mom and stepdad got divorced. Now we live in a newly built home, so hopefully we don't experience any activity. I always wondered if maybe the spirits at the old house were upset that we were redoing their home and were trying to stop us. My grandma always used to say, if there's no proof that something exists, then it's your imagination and you don't have to worry about. I still don't believe in ghosts, but what happened to me when I was 4 to 5 years old makes me think about what my grandma always said over and over again. It began when I was 4 back in 2002. I still remember it as if it was yesterday. I always saw something on my closet. There is some space between my closet and the room ceiling. The thing looked like a huge light with the silhouette of a human. In the beginning I just looked at it sometimes but ignored it most of the time. After a few months I started to throw stuff on my closet to see if the light is moving or throws it back, but nothing happened, so I started to talk with it. It whispered and I never really could understand it. After a week my mother started to ask me why I'm talking with the closet, and I always said, I'm not talking with the closet. I talk with the angel on it. She never really paid more attention to it. I guess she figured it would be an imaginary friend. It didn't change anything until 1 year later. When I was 5, I came home from a friend's house that lived like 8 minutes away and ran upstairs to my room. I stopped at the door frame and just stared in my room. The thing wasn't on my closet anymore. No, it was in the middle of my room. And now it spoke clearly and loud to me. It said, come with me. Come with me. The angel repeated it all the time until it was right in front of my wide open window. Now it said, nothing will happen to you. You will come back soon. Now it was outside my house, but still in front of the window. It said again, come with me. So I stood on the windowsill. I have to say at this point that if I would have jumped, I would be most likely dead, because right under my window is a stair out of stone that leads to the basement. I would have fell at least 6 meters down and was ready to jump into the open arms of the angel. In this moment my mother pulled me away from the window into my room. She had tears in her eyes and pressed me against her. I explained her what happened and she gave me a pillow and said, if you see it again or if it talks to you again, then hug this pillow and close your eyes and wait until it's gone. I did what she said and after a few months it was gone. I have never seen it since then. And sometimes I even wish it would come back, just one more time. I really want to know if it would have took me with him or if it would just let me fall down. I want to know if it wanted me to die, if it made me think I'm saved to lead me into my death. But one thing is for sure, I will never forget about this thing that I called Angel. Advice of the Lost. Crickets stirred the night air with their songs as I sat on the porch and listened to them argue. Again. We can't afford for you to keep spending like this. It's one night with my friends. You're trying to put the blame for our financial ruin on me? I sighed and put my face in my hands. I hated hearing my parents fight, and tonight was the last time I planned to sit around and listen. Kicking at every rock in my path, I speed walked down the driveway and into the neighborhood. I was able to relax a little once I left my house behind, but depression sank in. Home wasn't safe and secure anymore. I had to hide from my parents' wrath, though they never directed it at me, and money was making our household crumble. Suddenly, I pulled my mind back into the present, my skin starting to crawl. The world around me was silent. Even the cricket song was gone. I started walking faster. My ears caught the gentle clink of footsteps. Whirling around, I scanned the darkness. But there was nothing there, not even a stray cat. "It's nothing," I whispered into the silence. "It's just my imagination." I turned around and nearly screamed. A boy stood in front of me, his hand extended. There was a funny expression on his face. Not a smile, not a frown, just a knowing sadness. "I'm Jason Page," he said. I managed to blurt out my name. Then, "How did you? Can we walk?" He gestured towards the road. Too stunned to do anything else, I nodded agreement, and we strolled deeper into the neighborhood. As we talked, I lost my fear and enjoyed conversing with him. Hours passed, we walked into the next neighborhood, and I barely noticed. Until my watch lit up with the time. 2 a.m. "Shoot! It's so late. I have to head home, Jason." "I'll walk you back," he said. We were quiet on the way back, until we reached the end of my driveway. He stopped, looked me deep in the eyes, and whispered, "Never wander the streets alone at night." I blinked at him, confused. How important is being persistent and never give up? This is a story about the importance of being persistent and never giving up, no matter how many failures you have experienced in the past. A man was spending his holiday in Africa. One day he watched the elephants passing by. To his great surprise, these giant strong animals were being held only by a small rope, tied to their front leg. Obviously, they could easily run away any moment. However, they did not. Then he saw a trainer and asked him, "How could this happen that not a single elephant makes an attempt to break free?" The trainer explained, "When the elephants are very young, we use the same size rope to tie them, and at that time it is enough to hold them. Gradually they grow up, get stronger, nevertheless they never try to get away, as they believe that the rope will still hold them." The man was stunned. These strong animals could break free any time, but they did not, because they believed that this is impossible. Sometimes people act like elephants when they give up after the first failure. Remember that failures are part of learning. If we want to succeed, we should never give up, but try and try again.